Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we will be breaking down my top 15 rookie wide receivers of the 2025 class. But first, Jeff, we've got a little bit of news to go over, and then we'll dive into it. What do we have today?
Yeah, not too much from our last episode, but 4 news items. The first 2 are revolving around the Colts. The Colts have released kicker Matt Gay in what has been a weird and interesting offseason for kickers. There's a lot of veteran kickers still on the market. And Matt Gay now joins Eddie Pinheiro, Austin Seaver, Cade York, Nick Folk, Riley Patterson, Greg Joseph, Matt Prater, Matt Badgley. There's a couple of teams that I don't even believe have a kicker right now. So just some interesting moves around the kicker position. I don't know if there's rookies coming out this year or if teams are looking to the UFL for their kicker needs, especially with Jake Bates coming from the UFL last year. And then the other Colts move is the Colts re-signed tight end Mo Alie-Cox, and I don't think that will stop them from taking a tight end in the draft if they so choose to, because I think they have 3 lower tier tight ends in Mo Alie-Cox, Albert O, and Jelani Woods. So I don't think that this prevents them from taking a tight end in the upcoming draft. Alex, what do you think of the Colts moves there? Either of those help out winning for that team?
I don't know why they cut their kicker. I felt like he's still a fairly good kicker. We'll see if they replace him or if they bring him back on a cheaper deal later. But Mo Alie-Cox, guy who's familiar with the team, shores up the need at tight end just a little bit. However, I don't think it'll stop them from drafting someone in this upcoming draft, but it protects them in case they miss out on some of their prospects.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of the Colts, their former backup quarterback, Joe Flacco, signs with the Browns. So he is reunited with the team that he was with 2 years ago. And so now they have Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, and Joe Flacco. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm not really particularly loving that combo, but I know you're a bigger Joe Flacco fan than most, so I'll let you break this one down a little bit further.
Well, he's also 40 now, so he was already up against that age wall and was already on the decline. But he's not the best quarterback on that roster. I do think because he's not that mobile of a quarterback and because everyone suspects the Titans are going to draft Cam Ward number 1, I think this does murky the waters a little bit more for the Browns' second overall pick, because I do think that Shedeur Sanders is still in play for them. Like I said, his last OC worked with Stefanski before on the offensive side and the coaching staff, so he's already a little bit familiar with that scheme. He's more of a pocket quarterback, so Flacco would line up with that pocket quarterback element. It's just tough to know if they're going to stand pat at their quarterback situation or if they'll draft someone. They sure are doing a lot of work with quarterbacks at different rounds, so we'll see what this ultimately means. I still think one of the Colorado guys is going here.
Oh, right. We will see. We will see. But they have a full room now, and I think you could admit that as well right now. And then the last bit of news is the Eagles sign wide receiver Terrace Marshall. That is a very big wide receiver room now. I think they're like 7 or 8 deep. at wide receiver. So I don't think everyone makes the team. But Alex, they have obviously AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and Johan Dotson. I think those are your top three. They have Johnny Wilson. They have Smith, Gray, and Marshall on their roster as well. So Danny Gray and the rookie Smith from last year.
Yeah, having Johnny Smith and now Terrace Marshall as your backups is crazy to me because I feel like that's two ginormous backups right behind their little starters. But
there you go. And I think this will be Terrace Marshall's third year in the NFL, and this will be his fourth team. So not really what you're looking for.
I thought it was maybe his fourth season
because he did Carolina. He did, I think, some Niners and some Raiders, and
I mean he's only 24. Like he'll turn 25 in June.
I think the big thing is just getting his act together though and figuring it out.
Yeah, he's played 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, 3 with Carolina, 1 with the Raiders.
See, the more you know.
But he's, like I said, he's going to be 25 this summer. There's still potential there for him. It's just a long shot. He's a camp body with some upside for them.
Right. So speaking of wide receivers, we are going to be breaking down our top 15 rookie wide receivers for the upcoming NFL draft, which takes place in under 2 weeks now. And by we, I mean Alex, because Alex is our draft guru. So, Alex, go ahead and take it away.
All right. I'm going to go over the top rookie wide receivers going into the draft. And as a reminder, this is just the prospects, and we'll go over after the draft. We'll go over who we think our top rookies are going into the fantasy season and the NFL season. But coming in number 1 for me is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. A lot of people like Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan at number 1. I like Emeka Egbuka because I think he's the most well-rounded and he's got the highest floor of any of these guys right now. We have Tet, who may or may not be able to play in the cold and questions football, and we have Hunter, who may or may not play full-time corner as well as wide receiver. It's a big risk for both of those guys, in my opinion. Egbuka has played in all climates. He can play inside and outside. He is one of the best blocking wide receivers in this entire class. He actually, I believe he ran 4.40 at his pro day. He is someone that reminds me of JSN, his former teammate who came out in the league already, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's kind of in that mold. I think he can play inside. I think he can play outside. I think no matter what system he's in, he's at least in the 2 wide receiver sets, and he can play in the red zone and not break his leg. I think he's played well with different caliber quarterbacks as well. He's played with Stroud and with Howard. I don't think Howard is that great for someone who just won a national championship. He is a yards after the catch machine. He catches everything. Your only thing that you can say kind of negative about his play style is his route running is a little bit clumsy and could be cleaned up. But outside of that, I think he's everything you want in an NFL receiver. He's incredibly smart, and he's got no off the field concerns at all. So he is the least risky, highest floor, and he could have a great upside with any team he goes to. I personally would love for him to go to the Texans at 25, but I could see him going anywhere, really, to any team. As far as this draft class, I will say I don't see any true number 1s in this draft class. So there's like elite, there's number 1s, and then there's like low end number 1s, high end 2s. That's where most of the top 5 plus guys are for me, and Egbuka is at the top of that. Okay, number 2 for me, I will go Tet McMillan here out of Arizona. He's 6'4", 219 pounds. He is built like a classic throwback X build as a outside, more vertical kind of wide receiver. He didn't test very well for his 40 time. He tested in the late 4.5s. I think that could potentially set him back a little bit, but not too much. A lot of people want to compare him to Mike Evans. I see him more as a Drake London type. I think He's had some contested catches, but he doesn't high point as much as I'd like to. And he recently had a video of him saying that he doesn't love football and he doesn't watch film unless he's forced to. So these are two kind of concerns for me. I know it's been downplayed since, and he said he's got some growing up to do, but I would be very concerned to take him high in both fantasy drafts and in the NFL draft. I kind of value him as a later first round pick, even though I think he's probably going to go in the top 15 in the real draft. 23% of his overall targets were contested catches, and that was 10th overall in this class. And he won in 60% of those, so 18 out of 30. Like I said, I really like the Drake London comparison. I think that's pretty fair. Mike Evans, not so much, because Mike Evans is a true freak to get 1,000 yards every year and get all these jump balls, which I'm not sure that Ted is tough enough to do these jump balls in the pros. My wide receiver 3 is actually Travis Hunter. I moved him up a spot from wide receiver 4. I think if he truly committed to wide receiver like Jeff would prefer for him, I think I could see moving him up to 2 over time. So I could totally see him outperforming wide receiver 3. I get it. For me, I am concerned about strength of schedule in college. I think he did quite well against poor defensive backs in an easy schedule. I will say that Shedeur Sanders did him no favors by basically throwing in the traffic all the time and forcing Hunter to catch with 3 guys collapsing on him. That's not a good situation. I do think he'll be in better situations in the pros. A lot of Shedeur Sanders' film was just highlight plays for these wide receivers, and Hunter starred in those. Now, I see that he runs screens 21% of his receptions and routes, and I don't know how it's going to translate to the pros because he will be involved in that a little bit. I just think that's a high percentage. He actually converted more contested catches than Ted McMillan, so 64.7%, 11 of 17. I think at the pro level, he should move to the slot, maybe a Z. I don't think he can play X, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I view him more as a corner, but for this purposes, I'm going to view him purely as a wide receiver. And I think that nothing is elite, but he's above average in everything. The biggest issue for me with him is actually his route running. He's very choppy with his feet, very imprecise, and it looks messy. That's something that I think needs to be improved at the pro level for him to reach his potential. And the reason why it's sloppy is he plays a lot more corner than he does wide receiver in college. And I think if he focuses on wide receiver, that will get cleaned up in a year or two. Overall, I still like him. I'm just not at he's the number 1 guy in this draft class. I'm not at that level. All right. Number 4 for me, Luther Burden out of Missouri. He's 6 foot, 206 pounds. He didn't test. He had a productive 2023, not as productive 2024. The offense overall was pretty bad. He's a confusing guy to figure out because sometimes he looks great down the field and gets these big plus plays, and other times he's used as a gadget guy who's constantly in motion, kind of like a Deebo Samuel. So I do see Deebo Samuel. I do see like a DJ Moore type. I do see somewhere in between. I don't know how he's going to play at the pro level, how he's going to be used. So I'm going to have to pay attention to where he lands to try to figure it out. If he goes to a Shanahan offense, I could see him being a Deebo Samuel type role. If he goes somewhere else, they could use him as a stretch wide receiver. I really don't know what to do with him, but he is very talented. I do think he's fast. He's a yards after the catch monster. He could do much better with an actual quarterback who can get him the ball much easier. But he does there's some off the field concerns with his character and that he might be a little on the emotional side. So that's something to keep an eye on, although I'm not too aware of anything serious regarding him. I like all 4 of these guys plenty, and I put them kind of in the exact same tier as each other. The next guy is someone who's getting a lot of hype out there, but I just can't put him in the same group, and that is Matthew Golden out of Texas. He was like a 3rd or 4th round pick, and then all of a sudden at the combine runs a 4.29, and now he's the number 1 wide receiver in this draft class. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I like him. I watched him at U of H and I watched him at Texas. I just don't think he's done enough. He doesn't have the production profile in college. And I don't know if that is the quarterback play he's been forced to work with. This last season, he's had Ewers, who wasn't quite himself and wasn't in the same form he was the year before Golden got significant play time. So I don't know if that's the case, but he does have a lot of potential because he does create separation. He is quite smooth with his routes. I think he's better than people think there. He's got a good release package, although he can struggle when playing against pressed corners or physical defenders. Ultimately, it's hard for me to get a good feel for him. So I view him as the fifth wide receiver because of his upside and because he's got some concerns. You can view him as like a Brandon Cooks type, very explosive, fast player. Never really a true number one. I'm very curious where he ends up going because I think the highest he could go at this point is Dallas, who said they need speed and build from the outside in, which makes no sense. But Dallas would be very intriguing because CeeDee Lamb would be taking most of the coverage. All right, the next guy for me.
I need to stop you here. We're about a third of the way through, and you have my first receiver as far as scoring goes this year. You have my third receiver as far as scoring goes this year. You have my seventh, my eighth, and my ninth receiver in your top five as far as scoring receivers in fantasy this year. And I'll tell you who's who at the end here, but it's just interesting that 2, 4, 5, 6 are not even named just yet. And with Hunter, you tried to give him a ding for lack of competition, but we're also giving Shedeur Sanders a ding here for putting him in bad situations to get the ball. So, like, some point we're going to have to figure out who to give the bad side of that to.
I made Shedeur my number 5 quarterback, which should tell you I put most of it on him.
Yeah. All right. I will let you continue, and then we'll go over. But I could tell you, your number one is not even in my top 5 as far as fantasy scorers this year.
Good. That means you won't take him.
Not gonna touch him.
Again,
Hey, you remember what I did with Brian Thomas last year? Don't forget it.
I liked Brian Thomas. I said
Not as
in
much
his
as I did.
evaluation, I thought he played better than Neighbors at sometimes. I thought he was the best player on the field at sometimes. I told you that.
You said he was a
It's on
one-trick
camera.
pony.
No, I compared him to Julio Jones.
Go back and listen. Everyone go back and listen.
I compared him to Julio Jones.
He's going to have to expand his game, and I think that's exactly what you said.
Yes,
Very bad
because he
route
had
runner.
a limited route tree in college.
There you go.
And I compared him to Julio Jones and said there are games where I thought he was better than Neighbors. He was the best player on the field. All in there. Anyway,
Go back and
moving
listen.
on. Last year was a historic wide receiver class. So anyone in the top 2 rounds ended up being pretty good. All right. So my number 6 is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. 6'4", 214 pounds. He reminds me of Michael Wilson, or more accurately, who am I trying to think of? I think he's more of a better Christian Watson, to be honest. Someone who can actually probably stay healthy and do what you want, both inside and outside. He played mostly on the outside for Iowa State. A lot of people want him to move into more of a power slot role, and I think he could probably be good at either spot. He did have a relative athletic scoring of 9.85, which is phenomenal, getting a 4.47 40, a 1.53 10-yard split, a 39-inch vertical, and a 10-foot 8-inch broad jump, which are outrageously good. He has really good production last year, getting almost 1,200 yards off of 87 receptions and got 9 touchdowns. Year before, almost got 1,000 yards off of just 53 receptions and got 6 touchdowns. I think he and his fellow teammate, Jalen Noel, who is actually my number 7 wide receiver, are phenomenal. One is big and fast. The other one is little and fast. Both are complementary wide receivers at the next level who could develop into ones maybe in the right situation. Noel, though, I think is the better slot wide receiver between them, and Noel himself tested at a 9.71 RAS, 4.3951 10-yard splits. He also had a 41-foot 5-inch vertical and a 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. Did I say that right? 41-foot 5-inch vertical and 11-foot 2-inch broad jump, which is insane. And he also has been historically productive with Iowa State as well. I like these two going forward, and I'm very curious where either gets drafted. I know right now they're probably going mid-second round, so I would be targeting them there. Should I have picks there? The next guy for me is Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. To me, the 6'2", 206-pounder reminds me personally of the Rashee Rice type of player. He is deceptively fast because I know people are disappointed he got a 4.54 40 time and split is 1.56. I don't think he's the type of guy that tests well. On the field, he looks so much faster. He is someone that he also has had a productive 3 years in a row, amassing almost 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. So he is someone that I think, although he's a little bit on the older side, for a prospect, I don't mind because I think he's going to immediately become a contributor at the pro level. Coming from Ole Miss, he played in the SEC. I'm always going to favor guys who play in tougher conferences at the pro level compared to people around their same area. I'm also someone that I want to target. He's also someone I want to target in rookie drafts as well. All right, so the next guy here. So that was 8. Trey Harris was 8. Next guy, number 9, Elic Iominor out of Sanford. 6'2", 206 pounds. Very same as Trey Harris there, but he reminds me more of Crabtree. And I guess you can kind of compare him also to his former Stanford alum, Michael Wilson, too. He's very smart, played at Stanford, got a scholarship there, and he's very athletic. I think he runs fluid routes. I think he could be a red zone target. To me, what kind of diminishes his shine a little bit is he does have some weird drops where he was pressured and maybe got out physical, like he didn't compete enough for the ball. So those are something that I have a little bit concerned about. But ultimately, I think he's going to be a very good number 2 in the league. I like Michael Wilson a lot, and that's who ultimately I compare him to. And Michael Wilson, I think it would be better off with another team other than the Cardinals. Maybe would have had a better career by now, but he's still been solid. So I like him here, and I think he's got good upside. My number 10, I'm sure this is another guy you guys have probably heard of by this point, and this is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. The senior, 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's very physical for his size, and I think he's an inside-out wide receiver. He was used outside, but his route running is so savvy, and his awareness against zone coverage is so good. I think he could be a slot option in the NFL. His speed was impressive at the combine with a 4.42 and a 1.49 split. He didn't do much else of the testing, but his short area quickness on film and elusiveness makes him a dangerous weapon with yards after the catch situations. And I think he has strong hands and an aggressive mentality when attacking the football. And he can secure tough grabs in traffic. So he's someone that I like a lot as well. Kind of compare him and Jalen Noel to a Jaden Reed type, Josh Downs type. I know you're very fond of those wide receiver types, and depending on where these guys go, could determine where they get drafted in fantasy drafts. Okay,
Yeah, I heard a lot of, in that group of 5, I heard a whole bunch of Michael Wilson comparisons.
There was only 2. There was 2. There was Michael Wilson for Jaden Higgins and Elik Ayaminor. Those are the two I brought him up for, and I shouldn't really have brought him up for Higgins.
Yeah, so that's what I heard, and he's burned me on a few teams in Dynasty.
What about
'Cause he's
Crabtree?
not-
Do you like Michael Crabtree?
I like Michael Crabtree. I like the yanking of the chain. I think that was Richard Sherman on Crabtree, but
All right. You ready for another wide receiver you might like?
Yes, sir.
Jack Betch out of TCU, formerly out of LSU. 6'1", 214 pounds. Reminds me of probably a shorter Puka Nacua. Maybe that's a little hyperbolic for him, but I can totally see the comparison. Don't know if you could 100% expect the same production at the pro level, but it's a nice comparison. What you may or may not know is he outperformed Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors at LSU when he was there as a tight end, and then he ended up transferring. He's played tight end, fullback, inside and outside wide receiver. I profile him more as a strong slot guy, and I think he could be very versatile there, being moved around. I think a McVay type offense is the perfect offense for him. Shanahan offense, maybe second, maybe like the Denver Broncos as well. So somewhere on that offensive scheme, I would put him higher than this if it wasn't limited to scheme fit, perhaps. So I think he's incredibly tough. He's a competitor. I don't know if you've seen any of his clips or highlights or anything like that. He create separation and he also out physicals defensive backs. They have to tag team him to get him down. I think he makes tight line catches as well, like tightrope catches off the sideline. There's not much I don't like about about him at all. So he's someone I would consider taking depending on scheme fit.
He's much lower than, if he has no qualms about him, much lower on this list than I would thought.
He's someone that I like, but I acknowledge there's going to be scheme fit issues if he's not in a McVay, Shanahan, Peyton system.
Yeah,
So
and he's got a really good backstory too. I think during tragedy in New Orleans, he lost his brother. So
his brother Tiger.
He has a great backstory, and that was featured all over the Super Bowl. So a lot of folks should be familiar with his name at least.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Isaiah Bond issue. Isaiah Bond was removed from my list because he turned himself in for a domestic violence warrant. So we'll find out, I guess, as more comes out about it, how serious it is. But 2 weeks before the draft, I expect him to free fall. And it's hard for me to want to select someone who potentially could see either some jail time or suspension.
Yeah, I heard he's out on bond.
Nice. Nice joke, Joe. Very nice. Isaiah Bond. He's out on bond. I'm out on bond, that's for sure. All right.
That was what I was alluding to.
I'm not a fan of Xavier Restrepo, so he's not in my top 15.
Wow.
He is the clunkiest route runner I've ever seen, and he's slow on top of that. So I know he put up some nice stats in college and people rave about it, but I thought he looked bad, and I don't have him in my top 15.
He's number 4 for me, and in redrafts this year.
Yep, you like to project based off of college stats. Dude, watching him, there were plays where I thought he was smooth, but ultimately I thought he was so clunky, and I don't think he can do it at the next level. People want to compare him to Julian Edelman. People want to compare him to Julian Edelman. I'd say he's more Danny Amendola than Edelman.
They're both great.
Amendola didn't do nearly the same stats that Edelman did.
He absolutely did with Brady.
Okay, well, whatever.
So obviously it depends on the situation he goes to. You know what? Kansas City would be a good place for him to exist.
Isaiah Bond is going to Kansas City. He's the perfect chief. Gets in trouble. Fast, Texas guy, gets in trouble.
Dude, he got in trouble too early, though. You're supposed to do it after you get drafted.
Anyway, so I'll move on to the next guy on my list. And this seems to be a riser out there. It's the highest that I could get on my list, and that's Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Senior's 5'11", 190 pounds. He is very fast on film, very fluid, very vertical. He also ran a 4.40. 4.40, so that's easier to say. To me, he's played 5 seasons. So when it comes to wide receivers, I'm typically more down on the 5 seasons compared to earlier declares. But
Why is that?
just they have more tread. Like quarterbacks, it's okay because they're going to play a while, and I want them to get more experience prior to coming to the league. But wide receivers and running backs, I don't want all that tread on the tires.
Yeah, I can kind of get that. He's more experienced, though.
That's true. He's a smooth route runner. He's got great awareness, especially for zone coverages. I do think that he will be a better slot or movement Z guy. I kind of view him more in like the 5th round, 4th round range, but people seem to be trying to push him into the 2nd round. I doubt that. I'd say 3rd is the earliest he could go, but he might reunite with Cam Ward, who he played with at a completely different school early on. So we'll see.
There you
Number
go.
13 for me, Ty Felton out of Maryland. He's a little slender and thin, and he lacks playing strength, in my opinion. But he also is very fast. He's a very fast vertical and fluid wide receiver. He's got no blocking prowess, but he did run a 4.37 40 and a 1.51 split, almost a 40-inch vertical, and a 10-foot, 10-inch broad jump, which does show just how explosive he could be. I would almost think that he could be another Devonta Smith type, potentially. However, I don't think that he has the full production profile to back that up, although he did have 1,100 yards last year on 96 catches and 9 touchdowns. I think the potential's there. I just need to see where he goes and project what type of involvement he's going to have. But I like to bet on traits and upside later on. I feel like that's more than reasonable. And speaking of that, my next guy, number 14, Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. He's 6'4", 214 pounds, and he absolutely obliterated the combine. This guy got at 6'4", mind you, got a 4.43 40, 151 10-yard split, almost a 40-inch vertical, and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump. And he destroyed the agility as well. I think he needs some development because he's only played 2 seasons, but I really like the upside a lot. I think he played out of the slot, but he should play more outside, kind of in the Alec Pierce mold. And that's kind of who the comparison is as well. But I really, really like his potential, and I could see him going to someone like the Chargers in the middle rounds and being the outside complement to McConkey. Basically, almost any team could want this guy. And please, Colts, do not take another fast wide receiver when you don't have a quarterback to actually pass it to him. But I really like his athletic profile more than anything else.
I thought it was his last name that you liked more than anything else.
I mean, that's a pretty cool last name.
Hey, when you come for money.
Tesla with an extra A. No, he does not. He does not come from money as far as I can tell. So, okay. Next guy here. Number 15, last guy on the list, is kind of the opposite of the last 2 guys. He is not very fast. He ran a 4.61, and that is Pat Bryant out of Illinois. 6'3", 200 pounds. He has played multiple years, a senior, and he still needs a little bit of development, in my opinion, especially on the technical side. Despite being slow, he can still win deep due to his size because he is great at high pointing the catch, and he's very good at catching in traffic and contested catches. I think he could be a red zone monster at the next level. I think he's someone that, sorry to say this, Jeff, but I think he could be a better Devin Funchess. Like, he could be a Devin Funchess that actually functions. The Devin Funchess that actually catches and helps his quarterback.
Ew.
I'm trying to think of like a better comparison, but he really
Think
is.
harder.
He's just a tall possession red zone kind of catch guy. A better Kelvin Benjamin.
Back-to-back years, or there might have been a year in between, but still, they were relatively close to drafted to each other.
Yeah. I think he has potential to be useful. Not sure about any of these wide receivers being a for sure number one. I think Abuka, Tet, Burden, Hunter, maybe Golden. Any of these guys have potential to work their ways into it. Surprise me, but I think mostly everyone in the wide receiver group is probably wide receiver 2 or 3.
All right. We will see. You ready for my top 5 scoring wide receivers right now? Because you said
Sure,
tight end.
let's hear it.
Back. So we got Travis Hunter coming in at number 1, scoring roughly 10 points a game. We have at number 2, Trey Harris, scoring 9 points a game. You a big Trey Harris guy? Or
I like my top 10 guys quite a lot. And
okay.
he's in my top 10. And Trey Harris, I think, was my number 8 in this draft.
Yeah.
Or this group.
Yeah, but I just think that he's going to be one that goes under the radar for a team as long as there's a spot for him, I should say, because there's a chance that he gets drafted and there's like to the Eagles and there's 3 receivers in front of him and then he doesn't really have much of a shot to contribute. So that's why I do some of these projections ahead of time just to get like a baseline for them. But my number 3 will not shock you because it's Tet McMillan. 2 years in a row, McMillan has been drafted here. So I don't know if there's any relation. I don't think there is. Because if there was, you would have said bloodline player. I know your corks. We hang out.
What's your number 4?
Number 4 is Xavier Restrepo. You'll see. You will see. Those guys are very, 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 very valuable. And even if he's not an alpha at 8.6 points per game, he'll still be very valuable and score touchdowns.
You might be able to get him in the 3rd round of rookie drafts.
I will be taking him every time. Every single time. Remember how I was big on Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas last year? I'm still pretty big on Keon Coleman.
Wow, you're big. One of them worked out, and the other one not so much.
One was injured last year, so got to give him a second year. But Coleman I have at wide receiver 45 going into the year right now. He finished 68 last year, but I think he missed almost half the season. And then number 5, for me, I have to look through this really quickly, is Tez Johnson. And then number 6 is Elic. How you say his last name?
Elic Iomenor.
Okay. I'm waiting for the draft to learn how to pronounce some of these names, and then Luther Burden is my number 6. Thoughts? Because I don't have some of your guys there.
Tez Johnson, someone I played with, putting in my top 15, but I have a hard time seeing him immediately perform at the next level.
Why don't you like him?
Oregon wide receivers haven't lately panned out, and I think he's a worse version of Tank Dell, so it's hard for me to see him succeed this year. I still like him probably between the 16 and 20 range at wide receiver for rookies. Let's see, who else did you mention? I like Elic Iomenor. I think you and I have him roughly the same spot. So based off your projections and how I view him as a prospect, I think that lines up pretty well. I like Trey Harris a lot. You have him a little bit higher than I do, but if he goes to the right situation, he very well may put up numbers like that.
Not a big Matthew Golden guy. He is very low on the list for me. 5.6 points per game.
I've heard other people say his production profile is so bad that if he's drafted in the 1st round, he'll be the worst analytical 1st round pick for fantasy like ever.
There you go. Who else did you have really high? Oh, who is your number 1 again?
My number 1
is say his name.
Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka is only at 7.1 points per game, so we'll see if he can cut it in the NFL. Like, I have a stat line of 56 grabs, 666 yards, which is bad omen, by the way, and 4 touchdowns.
That's pretty funny to me, considering Ohio State pumps out wide receivers almost as well as LSU does.
Well, that Marvin Harrison didn't do so well last year.
Marvin Harrison was thrown into an archaic X role where he can't possibly succeed with the quarterback that he has. So, and he and Roma Junze still had like 800 yards as rookies, which traditionally has been very good for rookie wide receivers.
Not in a historic draft class,
Okay.
like you called it earlier.
Yep. Well, Kyler's only going to pass to his tight end and then
Hey, they just
go on the
paid him.
sidelines to play Call of Duty. And then Caleb Williams had 3 wide receivers to throw to and a tight end and running back in Swift. So a lot of mouths to feed, and Keenan Allen is gone now.
Absolutely. Well, Keenan Allen's nowhere right now, so he's not necessarily gone. He's just not there yet. Funny, because we really don't know where Keenan's going to end up.
No.
We have no idea.
I almost took a chance on Keenan Allen in a fantasy trade because right now he's free agent, and I could see the guy wanting to get rid of that contract because of the uncertainty. But as soon as he signs somewhere, he might be valuable again, depending on the team.
He probably will be. But yeah, that's a really great breakdown of your wide receivers, and you're getting me real pumped for the draft because even next is the running back position. I don't know if we've settled on an exact number just yet, but I know you wanted to do quite a few, so we'll see how many we can do for that.
Running backs has been very hard because it was like hard to even get to to 30, and it's been harder to get to 20. I don't think I could do less than 20.
Yeah, 20 is what I have it down as right now, but we can do maybe like a quick honorable mention afterward.
Yeah.
If there's that many running backs, it explains why your Amir Abdullahs, your Gus Edwards, your Cam Akers, Jamal Williams, those type are still, Jeff Wilson are still on the market. J.K. Dobbins, Nick Chubb.
The other top running back prospects outside of Genty, like outside of those prospects, there's a lot of guys that fall in similar tiers. So there's Genty, then there's, depending on who you are and how you view some of these backs, there's like a handful of backs behind Genty, and then those are all like the potential starting running back caliber guys. And then there's a whole bunch of number 2 in the committee backs in this draft class. There's a ton of them. So
yeah, we get to debate over Genty next week.
Yep. One of us is very high on him. The other one is like, I don't see the hype at all. So we'll see. For you guys, you'll get to see which one's which.
I just think he's overhyped. I think he'll be great. But
Jeff, I was going to keep it a mystery.
I'm sorry. You can cut that out then if you want to. But a good tease for next week. If you look at year 1 running backs, you have running back 9 and running back 10 and Bijan and Gibbs. So that's what they finished in year 1. So it's going to be overdrafted in redraft. Right, sir. I am good with receivers if you are.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for downloading or listening to this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle at N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.